Hi, I'm Bill Fukui with Page One Solutions, and today we're going to share some insights and some tactics on how your practice can convert more of these mobile inquiries, whether it's through emails, text messaging, chat sessions, and how we can convert those into consultations, some strategies to help your practice, because it's a big issue for most practices. And I'm going to start today with a quick story. Last night I went to go watch on TV the Cleveland Cavaliers playoff game. It's, the NBA playoffs now, because my consultant wanted to go and watch it because he's a big Cavs fan. And while we were watching the game, he kind of revealed to me that he used to play basketball and that he really regretted it, and he probably should have played soccer instead, because watching these NBA players, there was no way he was going to, go to the next level, so to speak. And I had to share with him as well. I did the same thing. I played basketball, but of course you're 5'6", you're Japanese, Asian kid that can't run very fast, can't jump very high, don't have a lot of prospects of being an NBA player. So, but I enjoyed it, and there are lessons I learned playing basketball that I take with me today. And one of those was a lesson I learned from one of my favorite players, which was Walt Frazier. And Walt Frazier, being in New York, was a New York Knickerbocker. So I consider that relevant, being in New York. But any case, he had a saying that it's not about how many shots you take, it's really about how many you make. And that's what marketing and sales is all about. It's not how many leads your practice generates through the marketing that your agency may generate for you. It's how many of them are you actually converting into consultations and conversations and moving the sales cycle along. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to address how we do that, but we also have to understand that so many more of our leads are coming through people being on their smartphone and these mobile users. And how you respond and sell services and develop rapport and relationship with people on mobile is very different than, say, desktop. And there's, this whole trend towards, everything's mobile. Mobile optimization, mobile ready, mobile responsive, mobile user, mobile experience, etc. So we need to concentrate and separate what we're doing, even though we're typing our responses in on a desktop, that we're going to have to understand that they're going to be receiving it on a mobile device. So some of the things on why I want you to think about mobile sales and mobile sales intake is that, number one, the cost of leads are going up. It is increasingly important not to waste these mobile leads because they're becoming more expensive. And there's a number of reasons for that. Agencies are charging, more money. And when's the last time your agency says, "Oh, we're going to lower your cost because the cost of doing this is so much cheaper now"? That's not happening. And advertising costs, whether it's display advertising, Facebook advertising, Google AdWords, remarketing, those types of things, all of those are just becoming more expensive. And your audience, this mobile audience, is becoming more diversified. They're spending more time doing a lot more things. So it used to be, if we just did optimization on Google and showed up on the first page or in the top listings on Google, that was enough. Well, it's no longer today. Practices have to spend more time and resources doing social media, doing email marketing, doing newsletters, doing other ways of staying in front of our audiences, because they're all over the place. And we're also seeing that competitors are becoming much more sophisticated, and traffic is becoming so much more mobile that we have to focus on the leads that are coming through mobile users differently than we do, say, our desktops. Unfortunately for most practices, but the good news for you is that very few practices really understand or have taken the time to develop strategies on how to convert these on-the-go mobile visitors and users and leads. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And the first strategy, which is the most important strategy, it's a common sense strategy, but it's not always the easiest thing to do, is we need to focus on generating phone calls first. Don't focus so much on just generating any kind of lead on your website. look at your mobile device and how can we start developing more conversions to phone call leads as opposed to email and text and other types of digital leads from the get-go. So just to kind of walk you through that, it starts with taking a mobile-first approach and look and view of your website. And you want to consider utilizing elements like sticky navigation, or what I'm referring to also, sticky calls to action. And what I mean by that is when you go to your website and you start scrolling down through the site, you'll want to see elements that stay on the page, like what we refer to as sticky navigation elements. These would be things as your website, as you scroll down, that menu stays on the screen and it's available for people as they scroll down this small 4.5-inch screen. The next thing you'll want to kind of think about is as people get towards the bottom of the page, they're not the same person as they were when they first arrived on the page. Hopefully they've consumed information, they've moved along in their comfort level, in their knowledge, and really hopefully a connection with you and some credibility, that you'll want to start looking at some kind of calls to action. And this would be in the form of sticky navigation as well, that as they keep continuing to scroll down, this call to action of scheduling a free consultation can appear, and it'll be tied right next to picking up, just touching the phone and calling your office. I don't necessarily just say click, to get a free consultation and click to the Contact Us page. We need to convert that right on this page, and having that touch to call phone icon and call to action will help convert more of them, into leads, telephone leads. The other thing is we need to be more intuitive and help visitors kind of navigate through our websites. So one of the things that you'll even notice on your phone today, you can open up your phone, and a lot of you were doing that before this course, is that as you scroll back up, if you go to Google, if you scroll back up on a Google search, you'll notice that Google has the drop-down show back up on your screen so that you can hit the back arrow. As you would scroll down, that went away. But as you scroll back up, Google's pretty smart. So it's trying to help you enhance the user session. So make it easy to go back, and then as people scroll back up, bring your menu back onto the screen. So it's trying to make your website more intuitive to the individual users. So some other things you may want to consider is making sure that your calls to action are phone focused. That is your highest priority, not just the chat bars or text messaging, icons that show up. Focus on phone calls. And you want to also think about updating your things like your Contact Us page. If you haven't viewed your Contact Us page, I strongly encourage you to do that, particularly on a mobile device. Many contact forms that you'll see just have an email form, and the subliminal message to a visitor is fill out this form. That's how we want you to communicate with us. That's not the case. On those forms that you have on individual pages, like those little quick contact forms, you'll definitely want to lead with phone number first as opposed to filling out this form. So give people the indication that you're wanting phone calls more than you do emails. And that would also apply when they go to the Contact Us page. There's forms on the internal pages, and there's forms on your Contact Us page. And again, focus on phone calls. Make it the primary call to action, not your forms. Okay? So these are some other follow-up tactics. So now that we've tried to generate more phone calls, there's still going to be a large number of leads that come in through digital communication. So these are some strategies I want you to think about how you can follow up. And these are going to be leads like emails, chats, text messaging, and no question, they are the hardest to convert. Practices, in fact, some of them have even, the intake staff has really almost given up on a lot of the digital leads because they're not finding success with them. We need to take tactics and implement them to the point where staffers finding success so that they're going to be much more readily wanting to follow up with these types of leads. A Harvard business study, and you may be familiar with this, is that they had studied over 1 million leads, and almost 70% of them were business to consumer leads. And studies show that the quicker you respond, the more likely you are to connect with the person that tried to send you the email to begin with. Practices or businesses that respond within the hour are 7 times more likely to connect with that prospect if you wait more than an hour. And if you wait 24 hours longer even, compared to say within an hour, now your chances of connecting with that person are 60 times less likely. Okay, so you've got to start following up with leads, definitely within the hour, but as soon as possible. Okay, so the faster you respond, not only are you going to connect with people, studies also show that faster follow-up, and if you are the first one to connect with somebody, you are going to be 238% times more likely to convert that person into a consultation, into a conversion. Okay, and 65% of the leads that came in through this MIT study indicated that it was the conversions were on the first call. 65% of them was on the first call attempted. So being first, being quick, and being the one to reach out to prospects more timely than your competitors will lead to higher conversions. Okay, but also kind of keep in mind that if they don't respond, no initial response does not mean they're not interested. Don't assume that. Studies have shown that over the course of time, when you do multiple follow-ups, your conversions for those after the initial contact will increase. As you do more follow-up, you will be more successful at connecting and converting those leads. So it's not just fast, it's about frequency as well. Here's a Google Analytics study also in terms of when to anticipate these leads so that you can plan to make those more timely follow-ups. Keep in mind that when people visit your site, there's a timeliness to it. And in this particular case, if you look through your Google Analytics, it may vary by practice, but in this particular case, in the lunch hour, we were finding that they have a higher user session during Monday through Fridays, which is great. That's the time when we want to be able to follow up anyway. Yet there's so many practices that build their lunch hours and such around their own convenience and not worry about their prospects. You need to have systems in terms of making sure you've got people answering the phones, responding to email inquiries during these high lunch hour times if that's when people are coming to your site. You'll also know in many cases that you're going to get leads coming in, or actually visitors coming in during off hours. These are, when your office is closed, maybe even on the weekends. In these particular cases, you definitely still need to try and convert those, and many times they're not going to pick up the phone and call. So we still need to convert them into actual leads, and that's when I would recommend at minimum, using chat leads or other types of strategies to start initiating conversations and communication with those visitors coming to the site. Now, when we're talking about strategies on how to follow up with them, yes, quick, persistent, those are important. But now when we're talking about what is it that we're actually sending out, number one, it has to be concise. Understand that people are going to be reading your response in a smartphone, which is a much smaller screen size. So we've got to be strategic with the information that we're putting in there, and we can't have long scrolling blocks of text that people can't, it's hard for them to read through. So we've got to be concise, and in order to do that and yet still give them good information or feel like, man, I'm getting a lot of stuff, is you got to leverage links. Links to leads that lead to other resources on your website primarily. And many of these can be videos. I strongly encourage you to start leveraging video and links to those videos in your email follow-up. This is a way to communicate a lot more depth, a lot more emotion, a lot more passion, and it ultimately moves the sale along much stronger than just text alone. Video blogging, you've seen a lot of websites out there that have frequently asked questions and things like that. Link to those in your email follow-up. You're going to find that visitors do engage with those, and actually it boosts up the traffic back to the site and actually gives you a little SEO boost as well. I do recommend not doing the autoplay feature, especially in case people are during work and they click on stuff. I don't want videos to start playing or audio to be playing when they're not necessarily ready for it. And develop videos not just on your pages of your website, but talk to your intake people. What are the common questions or the things that would help them sell more? And the idea would be whether that's videos on financing, videos on questions, but also things like what to expect during your consultation, because most people don't know what that is. They don't know what's entailed with it, yet that's what we're trying to sell in all of our emails, and it's not working because it's too big of a leap. So we must address questions also in our follow-up. When people are asking about pricing or whether you offer a particular type of implant or a particular type of service, you definitely need to answer them and not necessarily redirect them into not getting what they want and just selling the consultation. So definitely have to answer the question to some level. It'll help qualify them, but it'll also not give them the illusion that you're trying to hide something. Okay? But kind of keep in mind when you're sending an email response, it is not a one-time message. If you think about text messaging and other things when you're trying to sell, it's the conversation. It's trying to get people to engage with you. That is no different than your digital follow-up. The most important strategy isn't just trying to sell the consultation. It's about getting them to engage with you online. Okay? And the practice that gets visitors to respond and engage more with them, they're going to win the opportunity for the consultation. So you need to personalize your response. And when I say personalize, I mean things like, who is the person that's responding? I strongly encourage you to start putting your photo on those, not just your name and your title, but put a photo on there so people can start feeling like they get to know you. It's building rapport. And you need to just start asking better questions. Just like good telephone intake, half of, or if more, not more, of the effective use of intake is about the questions that you're answering, not how articulate are you in answering them. Okay? It's about peeling back the onion and getting people to feel like you care about them, that you want to know more about them as opposed to you just being the pitch man. And you need to improve your invitation. And when I say your invitation, what is it that you're asking for? Again, so many of our practices, and when I secret shop, in fact, I secret shopped a number of practices before I came here, and I'm going to share those with you, but they all ended with a, call me to schedule your consultation. They talked about it in the email, but call me or can I schedule it for a consultation, those types of things. But as I kind of mentioned before, that's a big leap when people don't even know, when the vast majority of people never had one. They don't know what to expect in them. So at the end of the day, we need to minimize the gap, okay? And we're not going to necessarily just always ask for the consultation. I think the reason we're struggling so many times with trying to convert and get people in through digital leads is because we're asking the wrong questions. We're asking them to do something that they're not comfortable with, they're not ready yet, so we need a lower barrier of entry opportunity. And this is what I would suggest. I want to make sure you get the most appropriate information. Are you available for a 5 to 10 minute conversation? That is a much lower barrier than saying, wow, you've got to be able to be committed to going through with a consultation before I'm able to engage with you, okay? Lower the barrier of entry and just start making a conversation, because the goal of every digital lead isn't the consultation, because how many times do you respond with a response like that where you're just asking for the consultation and you get a response of somebody saying, yeah, schedule me for 2 o'clock on Wednesday. That never happens. So why do you keep asking people to do that? get them on the phone. That's how you schedule consultations. So these are just some samples of kind of what I got back. Number one, this was one, I think they're definitely not hiding the fact of what the cost is, but in this particular case, there is no real information. It's concise, but I think it's probably too concise. This one is actually probably a little too long, and at the same time, it really has no links to other information. They're trying to use the email as, you know, the sole sales pitch to try and convert that person into a consultation. And like most practices, these types of emails don't work. Okay. Here's another one that's a little more along the right length, I would say. But again, I just think it lacks some of the links and such. But again, we get to the same thing about a complimentary consultation and doing the assumptive close, like which day or time works best for you. Again, you're almost offending people with these types of responses. That, no, I'm not a dummy, I'm not ready to go, but okay, I feel bad, no, I'm not ready. Okay? Don't offend people. Move them along by making things easier. And again, it's a phone call that we want to generate. This one is actually a little long, but it does have some really good elements. It's got links to different resources. It's got links to a video in the center. It mentions the price. It also talks about the doctor. Actually, it talks about the doctor a little bit too much in the sense that I've got about 7 or 8 different references to the doctor's name. I understand they're trying to brand the doctor, but I would suggest putting a link to the doctor's page, not necessarily listing his name in the email all the time. And I do encourage links to the About the Surgeon page as one of your primary links in your email follow-up, because it is about getting to know that surgeon. But it also had things like, mentioned financing and applying. So this is actually not a bad follow-up. It's just a little long. I think that explanation of the types and stuff maybe just a little bit long. But this is more along the line of what I would be recommending. But again, ending with the consultation, and consultation is $100. Do you prefer morning or afternoon appointments? They did all this work and ended it with the least effective way of trying to convert that person into a conversation. So those are my strategies. I encourage you to start playing with your emails and responding to how people engage with you online. You're going to find that the more time and concerted effort you work at trying to convert these really high quality leads that most people are dropping, you will find that your practice is going to be more successful, and your intake staff is going to be much more willing to respond to those in a timely manner because they're going to have more success. My name is Bill Fukui. My email and phone number is on the screen if you'd like a copy of this presentation, and we are in booth 832 if you'd like to visit us at the show today. Thank you for your time.